Hey, and welcome to another episode of Engineering Our Future podcast. I'm Nicolai.
Doing good. How are you?
Doing awesome. Thank you. I'm excited to talk about this topic. It's a little different for us. Doing things out of our comfort zone, doing things that may be outside of engineering, out of our comfort zone type of things. And I know that you've kind of embarked on some recent new, I don't know if you want to call them hobbies yet or just new adventures, let's
Mhm.
call them. So I thought maybe we can just kind of start there. And the whole idea of today is kind of challenging ourselves. You can't grow if you're comfortable, but also just trying new things and trying things that are different and maybe outside of the normal, like day-to-day things that you might do in your normal engineering career. So, do you want to kind of start by just sharing on this new adventure that you've kind of embarked on?
Yeah, I've always wanted to do music for the longest time, and I think that I always kind of lean on just doing sports and focusing on some other things. But I started doing piano lessons, which I mean, 10 years ago I could have not even imagined. Um, and it's one of those things that will be fun to do. Like it would be nice to learn music, but at the same time, it's like new. Like I have zero idea, zero music inclination. You could put music notes in front of me, I have no idea what they mean. So it was really just kind of getting out of that comfort zone and just kind of trying something new and be okay with failing at the beginning and just trying something maybe a little more just like completely different than your engineering and more technical stuff, which I think it's pretty cool.
And how are the lessons going for piano?
Yeah, so I mean, I had this second one yesterday as we record this episode, and I feel like I'm picking up faster than I thought I would. I thought it was going to take me a little more time. From what I've heard, piano is kind of one of the easiest instruments to start with, and kind of gives you a good range of notes and all these technical terms that I have no idea what they mean. But I think it's been fun, and I think just a way to um, just maybe connect more with like my wife, which is very music oriented. My son had been taking piano lessons for the better part of this year, so they come and help me and like and play with me. So it's just kind of a way to just connect with them as well and just kind of learn something new that I wanted to do for the longest time.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome. But what about like the feeling of jumping into something and you're looking at the notes or the music on the page? I know you said that you kind of always wanted to do something music oriented, but like just looking at it and having no idea where to start. Like what was that feeling like?
It was a little bit overwhelming at the beginning. Just again sitting with a stranger that doesn't know you and trying to play something that you've never done before and not really. I mean, the coordination and all of these things that reading the music and everything that comes with that. I think it was very uncomfortable at the beginning. I think just trying to figure out how to even start to play the piano and like make it sound decent and just kind of following the actual rhythm and the pace and all these things that you need to be thinking about. What was a little bit overwhelming, but at the same time, I think was just a good experience that it's good to put yourself out there and do a little bit uncomfortable things. And I think when I started the podcast was kind of a similar mentality in terms of I hate speaking in public or speaking in general to people in the sense of having that more like one way conversation, if that makes sense. But
Yep.
at the end of the day was just kind of getting out of the comfort zone and trying a few new things and just seeing where that goes.
Yeah. All right. And then what about when you did the podcast, I'm sure you watched YouTube videos and all those sorts of things and a lot of, trial by error, just learning things as you kind of went along. Uh, why would you hire an instructor for this piano? Like, did you think about just trying it on your own, or what was the thought process behind there trying to bring somebody in to help you out?
It is a great point and something that kind of goes back to that mentorship piece as well, and maybe even to the coaching piece, which I'm sure you know very well. I could do it on my own. I could just pull my iPad, start looking YouTube videos, and do it that way. There is a sense of more kind of commitment because one, I'm paying for this. Two, I have to show up every 2 weeks, and if I don't practice, it's gonna show, and the instructor's gonna tell me, yeah, you did not practice. I don't see any improvement. And third is just kind of that accountability that I know I have someone that I need to go talk to and show them what I've been working on and like how much progress I've made. And I think that goes back again to mentorship and coaching. Like a lot of times, like when you have a coach, is more of the accountability and the second perspective, if you will, when you're talking about kind of improving something. And I think that's kind of one of the main reasons I just wanted to do it with an instructor. It's someone that I need to go to and show that I'm actually practicing. I could do it with my wife. She would be great at teaching me all of these, but I know I need to put more effort into actually going and doing the practicing and sitting down and doing it. With this, I have a set time. It's a meeting. I need to be there.
Yeah. So I know we were not planning to ask that question, but that was like the perfect answer. I love it. And I love that you tied it back to so many of those things that we talk about with the coaching and the mentoring and the accountability. I think that's such a important part. I think some adventures, that are, outside of our comfort zone or kind of just outside of our normal, you definitely you don't need to hire somebody to help you out. But I think for you, you're taking this seriously, and it's something that you really want to learn fast. And I think it's great to bring somebody else in. I guess I'm curious, what are you seeing? I know you're only a couple lessons in, but I know that this is something that's been on your mind for a while, but how do you think this makes you more well-rounded? Or how do you think this improves you? Not be necessarily like being a better piano player, but like just you as a person, how does this kind of change that?
And I think there's a good kind of reason to do maybe something. We have the right and left brain, and some of the things that we do are one or the other. With piano, a lot of times we're using both kind of the same time because you're kind of looking and counting and then playing and being more creative. So I find myself kind of struggling at times doing all those things at the same time. But I know with time, I'm just gonna start getting used to it. And again, I think it's gonna just open my mind to like different, like seeing what I'm doing in engineering a little differently, if that makes sense. So I think again, it could be woodworking, it could be any other thing. I think started with someone that can guide you at the beginning is a great idea, especially if you're. I mean, I'm not gonna become a professional pianist right now, but I want to become proficient that I can at least see a piece of music and like semi can play it or at least take some time to learn it. But I started with someone can teach me the basics, like hand position and how do you sit on the chair, like all these things that maybe if I just watch a video online, they don't really cover or is not as I don't get that feedback, immediate feedback compared to just looking it up online. I think eventually I'm probably gonna be done with the classes and probably still kind of have that interest in like looking up videos or like looking how people play different songs and maybe even try to learn these maybe like more famous songs or whatever. But at the beginning, I think it's a good idea to do that. And in terms of just engineering, I think it's just a way to just have a different perspective and maybe use a different part of the brain that I do all day at work, which is very technical a lot of times and maybe not super
Yeah.
creative.
Oh, I love that. So years ago, I I took up the woodworking side of things, and it wasn't fine carpentry or anything like that. I'm not selling anything like fine cabinets or whatever, but um, I had a saw, and I had some experience. We had done some home projects around the house, and so I felt comfortable with the tools, even though I didn't really know what I was doing as far as like putting furniture together. And this was at the time where like Fixer Upper, that old TV show, was on, and so uh the chunky, clunky farmhouse furniture style was there. So, just two by fours, put them together, and you have a bench, right? I really enjoyed it, doing that for years, and I felt like that was such a nice outlet for me. Now, there was a lot of technical to it because you're calculating and you're doing angles and you're trying to figure out that sort of, how you piece it together. But I just remember being able to zone out, getting away from work. It's a hobby that was fun and fulfilling. I did turn it into a money-making hobby, which was great because I used that to help me pay off debt and stuff like that. But I don't know. It was just a lot of fun, and it was a creative side. There were some things that I tried to get a little creative, and then figuring out how to make something work when you don't have like a CNC machine or something easy to cut, letters out or what. It just was fun. Or how do I turn this palette into a table that looks nice? And just doing certain things like that. I just enjoyed the creative side, which we don't really get as much in my, current day to day. So
How did it
very
feel
cool.
to
What?
when you like started actually understanding how it works and like maybe becoming more proficient, if that makes sense? Just how explain kind of that feeling of like I know nothing right now. I will
Yeah.
start. I have some practice now. Now I can actually build something on my own. Like, talk to me through that process.
You know what? There's actually a story I have there because there was a moment where I actually felt, wow, look what I've learned. So my dad and my brother were over at my house, and I was having them help me build a piece of furniture, like a TV stand or something like that. Um, so we're putting it together, and there were certain angles and different things that we had to do, and then piecing it all together, putting all the screws in, joining everything. They were just like some methods that I was using, and my dad would just kind of stand back every now and then. He goes, "Oh, I wouldn't have thought of putting it together like that," or "Oh, that makes sense. I've been just trying to rough it in or like balance this on this shoulder and this hand and screw in from here." And I was just like, "No, you just throw all these things together. It makes your life easier." And it's funny because that sparked my memory there. Just like it felt like, wow, look what I've learned. And so no knowing nothing at the start was overwhelming, thinking, okay, what do I need? But I just looked around my garage. I had a miter saw, and that's literally all I started with. And then I improved and got the jigsaw and the table saw and all the other tools that I could use. But I learned along the way. But I started with what I had, and I think that's actually a message that we had recently as well. Is start where you are with what you have. The most important thing is just to get started. Um, Now, my wife is probably listening to this, in the other room, and she will probably laugh at me out loud when she hears me say this. But there was a time where I had a random idea where I was going to start sewing. I don't know what it was about sewing, but I just thought I'm going to buy a sewing machine. Went onto Amazon. I know nothing about sewing, and I bought a machine. And I made one little thing. Like I bought fabric, I bought a bunch of stuff. I made one little thing, like a 6 inch by 6 inch, whatever. It was like a loop. It wasn't even like a shorts. It was literally a loop. And that's all I've done with it since. And so for that one, I feel like I should have hired somebody to maybe teach me what to do because I had no idea. It was too complicated for me to really get started on. But then I also didn't have the patience to sit and learn either, which honestly, that could be a lesson in itself. Doing something out of your comfort zone and failing, it kind of teaches you how to fail, teaches you to learn how to fail. It's not fail and give up, but it's fail and how are we going to move forward and how are we going to learn from this? And I did not do that with the sewing thing. So maybe I should pull that out of the attic and get back into it and just to kind of prove to myself that I can do something. But we'll see. Maybe in the next episode I'll say that I'm back into sewing.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you kind of want to do it, but then you start and it's like more complicated than maybe you thought it was, and becomes overwhelming quickly, and you don't have any guidance, and yeah, I stopped doing it. So I think that's kind of one of the reasons. Also, just I wanted someone to at least teach me how to look at the piano, and like all the notes and all these things that again I had like zero knowledge of music, and at least I now have a little bit of like knowing where some things are, like which keys to play with and whatnot. So yeah, I think that's a great lesson. Is there anything else you want to add to our discussion today? I think we cover a few things. I think it's important, and I think it ties well to some of the things we talk about, like mentoring, coaching, that we've touched in the last few months. So yeah, I'm glad we recorded something like this, and just cool to hear some of the things that you're also trying to do new, and hopefully the listeners are doing anything like that. Yeah, anything you want to add? Anything you want to finish with?
No, no, I would just encourage people to, try something out of their comfort zone, try something new, try something totally off the wall that's unrelated to what you do. It definitely helps us to be more well-rounded. Helps you to recharge too, you know. I have a lot more respect for people who sew, just on how hard it was for that one thing that I did, right? Like, I just have so much more respect for people who have that skill set. You know, if nothing else, that was a great takeaway, you know, that there are people who master their craft, and it takes years and years and years, you know, and so it's not just so easy that we could always do these things. And I think that was a good lesson in itself, you know, because I can just admit here that there are some things I look at, I'm like, oh, I could do that, but probably reality I can't, you know. No, I would love to hear if any of our listeners are willing to you know, message us and just share, like, what are some of those random things that you do and in a hobby or creative outlet or whatever. I know we have an interview coming up with an engineer who's also a musician, and I think that's going to be really fun to kind of piggyback off of this conversation and see how does that make him more well-rounded. So I'm excited about future episode, and yeah, I think that's all I'd like to say about it.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that, and just kind of hearing how he kind of balances the two and kind of some of the lessons between engineering that he brings to the music and music that brings to engineering. So definitely a very cool episode coming up. If you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, you're going to love the content we have over our newsletter. Every issue comes packed with information about the episode that we recorded, giving you detailed action items as well as just reflection on some of the things that you could apply in your career, in your life. And I always enjoy sitting down on a Sunday, Saturday sometimes, and writing down each newsletter. Comes packed with a lot of information, a lot of links, a lot of great lessons and knowledge that we share both in the podcast, but I'll try to go a little deeper into that connection. So if you are interested in that at all, go to luisfelipeduque.com/newsletter. All the information is there. I'm excited for the podcast and where it's going. So I want you to know about that resource as well. Nicolai and I put a lot of effort in the podcast, and we're enjoying the conversations. And as well, if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, go to the link in the description below or luisfelipeduque.com/contact. And let's connect. We're happy to provide you with all the information you need, and always excited to have that conversation as well. Thank you, Jack Winters, for the music, and as always, let's continue engineering our future.